Hey everybody, Matt Colville here. I'm still pretty sick. I'm dealing with this stupid pneumonia. I went to the doctor, everything's gonna be fine, just gonna take a while. I wanted to stop. We're gonna do a video about what happens when everything goes wrong, but I wanted to stop, and you can hear it in my throat, okay? Yeah. I wanted to stop because moving forward, I want to, at the end of each video, cover the big questions people asked from the last video. But we haven't done that for these first 13 or 14 videos, so I thought we would do one episode where we kind of catch up and talk about all the stuff that people have asked in the first whatever we've done. Hopefully there'll be a new video on Monday. I know that people have started to think of Monday as the day when I release content, but really my goal was to do it Monday and Thursday. And moving forward, I'd like to ultimately be able to do 3 days a week. But part of that is going to be doing shorter videos. I know there are people that love, the 20-minute, half an hour long videos. There are people who would probably, because they have me in the background while they're working, they wouldn't mind if a video was however long. But my metrics show me that the overwhelming majority of people don't watch more than about 8.5 minutes. So that means a big chunk of content that if I go over about 10 minutes, most people aren't seeing that. And what I would like to do is make it so that if I spend the time recording something, there's a good chance that people who come to watch it will see it. So that means shorter videos. And that also means maybe more videos, but also in general, I think that shorter videos are better because some of the stuff I've done in the past was packed with a ton of content and a lot of lessons, like important pieces of advice that just got mentioned and we moved on and didn't get the attention I think they need. Because I noticed that because in the questions, people will often ask me stuff that I covered in the video. And to me, that means that the video was too long, they checked out, and so shorter videos will solve that. Basically, I just want to know that people who come to the station are seeing most of the content I make, by and large. By and large.
By and large, it's your superstore. All you need, and so much more.
I thought for a minute there me being sick meant everything was broken, but apparently the system is still working. Let's start with the contest. Congratulations to Redlius. He has already received his D20. He took a great picture of it, took another picture of it, surrounded by all his other dice as though they're like worshiping their space master. It took me about half a day to scrub through the 1,500 plus comments, remove all the duplicates. Several people would respond in several times. People weren't cheating, they were just responding to other comments, so their name was in there more than once. And then I had to take it all in Notepad and then take it all into Excel and then make a chart. And then I rolled on the chart in Fantasy Grounds. They don't make a D1550 whatever, but in Fantasy Grounds you can just generate a random number of any arbitrary size, and so that's what I did. I'm going to run more contests in the future. I really liked doing this, and I actually kind of felt bad once we got past a couple hundred entrants because I thought, wow, a lot of people are not going to win, and that made me sad. I really felt like, man, it'd be nice if I could give everybody a D20. We'll give away other stuff. There's all sorts of cool giveaways we can do, and we'll probably peg the contests to some kind of subscriber rate, but really that's arbitrary. I just like getting my friends stuff, and you guys are my friends, so I'm looking forward to running contests so you can get cool stuff. How did the contest go? I beat my friend Jay by 7 subscribers. I got to 5,000 subscribers last Sunday night, and he was at 4993, which is insane. It's a crazy story. When we started, I really just wanted to motivate him to make another video. He only makes a video about once every couple of months, and I was saying, hey, what are you at? You're at 40 whatever. He was at 4,600. I said, I bet I can get to 5,000 before you. I had no real expectation that would work. I was getting more subscribers than he was, but he was so much closer than me, and both of us just felt like if he made one video, he would get to 5,000. And he did make a video. It was pretty late in the day. It was about 4 days before the end of the contest. That got him a lot of subscribers, but it didn't get him over the hump. We both went, as he put it, full whore. We did everything we could to get subscribers. I actually emailed Matt Mercer and said, Matt, could you retweet about this? And he did. He was super cool about it. I met probably like 1,000 subscribers that way. Jay made a video that got him a lot of subscribers. He posted on Reddit. We were both doing everything we could think of. And the crazy thing is, I won, considering that the original gap was he had needed 400 and I needed 2,600. The fact that I won by 7 subscribers at the end of the day was insane, but not as insane as the fact that 4 hours later, remember, we were doing this for like 3 weeks. 4 hours later, I had 5,010 subscribers, and Jay had 5,400. He got 400 subscribers. He got 1,000 subscribers in about 12 hours after I won, because a friend of his who is a famous 3D artist posted on Facebook about his channel. Jay got as many subscribers in 4 hours as he needed to win in the first place. The entire time he had dinner with the guy the Friday before that, never brought up his channel, never brought up this contest. So the entire time he had this dude in his pocket he could have busted out, but the guy just noticed that Jay was tweeting or posting on Facebook about it and checked out Jay's channel and said, wow, this is super cool. And so he tweeted about it. The power of social networking works. So that was the contest. It was super cool. We'll do more stuff like that in the future. People have asked me to tell more stories about my campaign, and we will have stuff like that. I think if I do 3 videos a week, one of them is going to be the after action report from D&D that I ran that week. But in general, I think that telling stories about my game just for the sake of telling stories is it's lacking in vitamins, if that makes any sense. I prefer content that has more of a point, where there's a lesson, there's something I have learned that I can pass on to you. And there is some of that in any given session of D&D, but generally speaking, I think I'm going to try and keep it light on the let me tell you about my campaign stories. Also, people have asked if I would record a session of me running the game. We will absolutely do that. I had a session recorded, 4 hours of me running the game, but unfortunately I'd had the wrong audio device selected, so all you got was me going, and that's not very useful. So we will absolutely record me. I think we have to, you guys have to see what it's like when I run a game, because as I've said before, I think that you'll get an idea of what kind of DM I am from these videos that has nothing to do with reality. Mike Merles tweeted about this just yesterday. He said, I think people imagine my game, his game, as being kind of some kind of archetypal, awesome game, the perfect, ideal game, when in reality, he's just doing the same stuff the rest of us are doing. He's largely making it up as he goes along. It's mostly just you hanging out with your friends and having fun. It's not that big a deal. If you saw me running the game, you would think, oh, hell, I can do that. Yes, that's the whole point. Of course, yes, you can do it. It's not that big a deal. You know, I screw up all the time. My friends, we snipe at each other. We quarrel. It's never perfect. It's rarely smooth sailing the entire time. And you'll see that warts and all. And I think that'll be a good lesson for everybody. It'll also help me, like me watching me run D&D would be, I bet I would learn a lot about my game watching me run D&D, so that'll be interesting. People ask me rules questions, how do you calculate XP, how do you design encounters, and we'll do some of that moving forward, but generally speaking, I want to avoid the kind of stuff that you can just look up in the DM's guide and they'll tell you. Or if you want more, there are lots of video channels you can watch, people covering D&D, people playing D&D. I try to make it so that my videos are the stuff that is unique, the stuff I've learned, the stuff you can't get anywhere else. So generally speaking, if you have questions about the rules, my advice is 1, look to the DM's guide, look to the player's handbook. 2, make it up. Just try something. No one gave us advice when we were starting out. We just had to wing it. And in fact, you develop taste a lot faster than you develop skill. So you are going to have an idea of what a good DM is, what a good game is. You're going to have taste, like, oh, I want my game to be like this, way before you have the ability to make it like that. So you can't let that get in the way. You can't let your idea of the perfect game get in the way of you running something. Just start running a game, and you will find that the stuff you learn in your first session, just what you learn the first time you run, is going to be worth more than all these videos I've done. And also, you'll learn things that I've never thought of. My friend Ray ran D&D and had a great way to introduce a bad guy. Super obvious. Well, I mean, I don't mean to diminish Ray's insightful introduction, but like as soon as I saw Ray do it, I'm like, man, why haven't I ever introduced a bad guy like this? This is super cool, and we'll talk about that. I'll probably interview Ray since he ran a game. We did several sessions. We did one adventure, largely predicated on him watching these videos. And he said, oh hell, I'll run D&D. So we'll do a little Q&A with Ray, and you'll get some idea of what it was like for someone else who's watched these videos. So you running the game, you'll think of stuff that I've never thought of. I've seen people on Twitter tweet at me some of the stuff they've done, and I've thought, wow, that is amazing. I'd never would have thought about that. And all you have to do is start. Once you start, then you're on your way, and these videos will become less and less useful to you because you're going to become the local expert. People ask me, will you run a game for me? What? No, I'm not going to run a game for you. The whole point of this series is that you are the DM your group needs. People say, well, what if I don't have any friends? Okay, look, there are limits to my powers. That is not something I can solve over the course of these videos. I suspect that's a problem outside the scope of D&D. Will you help me with my campaign? People send me their adventures that they've written up. People send me their campaign descriptions. And really, I think that stuff is super cool. And I often will skim that stuff, but I don't have time to offer any kind of useful feedback. I've got 2 D&D games that I'm running simultaneously. I've got this video series that I love. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I've got a whole day job, which is pretty much the best job in video games that takes up a majority of my time. And I've got another novel I want to write. So I would love to be able to give people feedback on all their stuff, but the reality is I don't have time to do that. And the best feedback you're going to get is your players' feedback. I'm not a player in your game. What do your players think about this stuff? Almost every video I have people asking me, when are you going to be on Critical Role? Look, those guys have a good thing going. And whatever you think of me watching these videos, if I were suddenly on Critical Role, your opinion of me would, first of all, 98% of the people watching that show have no idea who I am. Second of all, I'm not an actor. I am not that kind of, I would be super nervous. And, realistically speaking, I'm not sure I would have fun. I mean, here in the comfort of my own office, yeah, I can have a one-on-one with you and we can have a lot of fun. But in front of God and everybody, I would choke and I would make a fool out of myself. So that is maybe something we should not wish for. Although I did talk to Matt Mercer a while ago and he was telling me about something about his campaign that I thought, it would be cool. But one of the reasons Critical Role is working is because Matt is literally running the game he wants to run. They make very few concessions to the fact that they are recording, and that's the reason I think everybody loves it, and they should keep doing that. Are you going to continue your History of D&D series? Absolutely. I have a video series I started a couple years ago. I originally thought it would just be me spending about 10 or 15 minutes making a fighter in every edition of D&D, and it would just be fun seeing how the rules have changed over time. But what it turned into was this huge kind of Dan Carlin-esque hardcore history on Dungeons & Dragons, because I wanted to know, why are these rules so weird? Why are they like this? And so now what I thought was going to be a 10-minute video, they're turning into like an hour long. And we go into, why did they make second edition? What were the big changes? How, what was going on at TSR? And I think there's like 6 of them up there. And we're going to do another one for third edition. Third edition should be interesting because third edition is where I enter the picture. Like I was working at Wizards of the Coast. I wasn't working in Seattle. I was in a satellite office in LA when they were working on D&D. I was working on other games. But at this point, I knew some of the people involved and I saw some of the behind the scenes stuff. So that video is going to be super interesting. We will absolutely go back to that series. I think you can't underestimate, go back to the Midnight Special video I did. That was the beginning of me getting sick. I have been sick most of the history of this channel. It's stupid. Look, no joke. Get your flu shots. This is the first year in like 5 years I put it off. They were giving away flu shots at work and I thought, okay, I'll do that. And then I was busy. I was in a meeting and I'm like, okay, I'll do it at Target. And I ended up just putting it off until ultimately I got sick. All right. I don't be like me. Go get a flu shot. Once I'm better, then the scope of this channel will increase and we'll go back to the history of D&D. We'll go all the way up to 5th edition. I have played every edition of D&D. I've run every edition of D&D since Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I loved all of them for different reasons. And with the exception of 2nd edition and so far 5th edition, I got sick of all of them for various reasons too. And we'll talk about all those. One of the early episodes, I used Dungeonographer as a tool to make a dungeon. And I talked it up, but I kind of regret it. I used Dungeonographer because it was the easiest tool for me to show you what I was doing. I don't think it's the best tool. I don't really think there is a good online tool for building a dungeon. I talked up Dungeonographer in one of the earlier videos, and I sort of regret that because Dungeonographer was a good way for me to show you my work as I built a dungeon, but I don't think there is any solution online right now that is as good as just graph paper, and that's kind of baffling. I mean, really the issue is the demand for that kind of thing. I mean, of all the people that play D&D, only people that run D&D need something to build dungeons with, and there really haven't been enough of those people, I think, to warrant anyone taking the job of making software for it seriously. But I think that's changing. I think we have more DMs now than ever, and I think that is increasing. So maybe we will see a good dungeon creation solution in the future. I mean, I've tried a bunch of them. I tried Dungeon Designer by Pro Fantasy, didn't like it. I tried Pyromancer has a solution, which is pretty cool, but still a pain in the butt. There was a great program called PyMapper that actually I think is pretty close to what we would want, but it required you to go out and either find or build your own tile sets using Wizards of the Coast dungeon tiles, and there was no easy way to do that. That was a huge pain in the butt. So something like PyMapper, Python Mapper, something like PyMapper, but with the tile sets built in would be great. And I would pay money. I think most of us would pay good money for something like that. I said, 5 encounters a night, and I think realistically speaking, that is too many. I think mostly my group gets 2 encounters done in a given evening, and the rest of the time is spent role-playing. So that's another lesson for those of you that are interested in becoming a DM is that you don't need that much content ready. I think all of us always over-prepare. If you want a preview of the how to wing it episode, how to make stuff up as you go, this is part of it. The trick is your players aren't going to get through that much content in an evening. You only need 1 or 2 encounters to satisfy them for a 3 to 4 hour session. The rest of the time, you can fill it with role playing and the players interacting with each other. I mean, watch Critical Role. Those guys spend a lot of time just interacting with each other. Several people have said I talk too fast, and obviously the answer is no, you listen too slow. Obviously, I don't talk like this in real life, and often what you're watching is the 5th or 6th or 7th take of something that I've been trying to get right, and I'm using different words, or I stumble on something, and so by the time I actually get it on tape, I've said it so many times that I can speak quickly, and I think that is appropriate for a YouTube cadence. A lot of the guys that inspire me, like the Vlog Brothers, John and Hank Green, they have a similar cadence when they're doing their own thing. I did an episode called The Sociology of D&D where we talked about how to custom make your campaign so that your players can find their fantasies in it, not just yours. And overwhelmingly, the response was positive. Even if you go to Reddit, and I think some people have an interesting idea about what Reddit is about and about how toxic it is, and I don't find it toxic at all, but that's because I have custom curated a lot of the content, so I don't go to the toxic subreddits. But people cross-posted my videos on several different subreddits, and every single one, the top 10 responses, all of which had their own responses, were all super positive, and you had to really dig down to find someone who was complaining about the notion of inclusiveness. So that's the lesson. Things have been bad in the past, things are still bad, but they are getting better. Once you scroll past all the supportive comments, you start to see people saying that what I was describing didn't really happen, but I'm going to put a link to Ken White from Pope Hat and a post he made about some of the people he played with, and I have heard that story from lots of people, and I know that it happens. It's just important to know that if you have a bad experience playing with people who are wang rods, don't play with those people, go play with other people, or hold those people's feet to the fire. You know, Robin Laws just posted on Pelgrane's site, people were asking him about what happens when one of the players in their group decides to hijack the game by turning into a wang rod. And he said, call them out on it. Go turn to the other players and say, are you guys all okay with this player behaving this way? Because at that point, there's peer pressure involved. And really, socialization is a big part of our lives. The notion that some of the ways we behave when we're kids are not okay. And it's up to, once we're no longer beholden to our parents and teachers, it's up to each other to socialize each other. So if you're in a game where people are behaving badly, call them out to it, hold their feet to the fire. Ultimately, it's up to you to just leave, start your own group, be your own DM. Lots of people online have said that they have started their own groups because they watch these videos. And that makes me incredibly happy. It means that the system is working and that all the money I spent on all these lights in this camera is worth it. One of the most popular negative responses I got was people saying, oh, so now I have to include every possible minority stereotype in my game. And if you share this video online and you get responses like that, that is the sound of them tapping out. They have already quit the argument because they're not engaging with the content of the video. They're making up their own straw man argument and hoping that you will fall for it and attack it. But what the video said, my advice was just make sure that your players, not everyone, just the 4 or 5 people at your table can find their fantasy in there, not just your fantasy. And I think that's an axiomatic good. It's hard. Obviously, if their fantasy is hateful and cancerous, then maybe they shouldn't be able to find their fantasy in your game. But I think people understand what I'm talking about here. A lot of people said, oh, anytime you put minorities or women in your game as NPCs or as people to meet, it's just obvious. You're just ham-fisting it in there. It doesn't feel natural. And of course, that's their response because they have grown up in a bubble where any presence of women or minorities in media or in the stuff they read or watch or their games that they play is seen as unusual. But we're here to burst that bubble because we want everyone to enjoy D&D. Their perception of the presence of people not like them as being ham-fisted is just their way of attacking inclusivity. And again, it's, if you make video games, you want everyone to come play your video game. So when you have a game like Baldur's Gate and you have a transgendered character in there, part of that is just, it's fun for writers to write people that are different than themselves. It's fun when you are a writer and you read stuff online and you meet people to file all that stuff away and use it later on in your writing. And then obviously those writers, the people that work on Baldur's Gate, they want everyone to be able to come play their game. And if including characters that are different than the straight white stereotype means that you alienate some of the wang rods, but you gain a huge audience of people that get to enjoy your content, then so be it. I actually think the way they did it in Baldur's Gate was great. That notion of one of the characters saying, that's a super interesting name you have. And the character saying, yeah, well, I had to make it up for myself because the name I was born with did not suit me. As soon as I read that, I thought, oh, this is super interesting. Why not? I was hooked. I wanted to know. And so I love that kind of stuff. We should do more of that kind of stuff. Another comment I got to the Sociology of D&D video was people calling me out because I said I liked the Malazan books, but I didn't like books that were 1,000 pages each and had huge casts of characters. But if you go back and watch that video, that's not what I said. I said I recommended the Malazan books, and I was recommending them specifically because they were written by an archaeologist and they had this incredibly diverse multicultural setting where not only were all these different cultures interacting, there was also this great history where there were thousands of years of empires rising and falling. but I don't like those books. I read the first book, I liked it, and I've bounced off the second book. There's like 10 books in that series, by the way. I've bounced off Gardens of the Moon literally like 6 or 7 times. My friends all love it. I turned them onto it and they became huge fans of it. But for all the reasons I described, I just like the kinds of books I read in the 80s where a book was 350 pages and there was, an A plot and a B plot, and that was it, not an XYZ plot. It's just down to taste. If I don't like something that you like, we're just all going to have to be okay with that. I did a movie review for a movie that no one's heard of called Midnight Special. I wanted to do a Batman Superman one, but unfortunately I was really sick, and we're going to do more movie reviews moving forward. That's been a big part of my life. Games and movies and writing are all huge passions of mine. The movie reviews are going to be in their own playlist. I don't know if you can subscribe to just one playlist, so you may end up coming for the D&D and occasionally getting exposed to movie stuff that you don't necessarily care about. I apologize in advance, but this is my station. We're going to talk about the stuff that I'm interested in. The DM screen video was super popular, and a lot of people liked the idea of rolling the player's stealth and perception stuff behind the screen, but some people pointed out that there was already a stat for that passive perception, but I don't really use passive perception because I find it is incredibly poor. Most players' passive perception isn't that good, and so if I use that, they will almost never notice stuff. So I prefer to have them roll perception, and the more I do that, the more I think, I should be rolling perception. So a lot of people didn't overwhelmingly, I think the responses to these videos are positive, but the primary negative response was people who didn't like the idea of rolling. You know what? If you don't like it, I don't do that currently. I have done it in the past, and I'll probably do it in the future, but I think probably one of the most common complaints I get in the comments is people who just don't like my ideas, in which case, fine, go run D&D and develop your own ideas. The goal here isn't use my ideas. The goal is to tell you the stuff that I've done that worked for me, because it might work for you, it might not, but as long as you're running D&D, it doesn't matter to me. About once every video, someone says, every time you say peace out, that you were insulting all the people in the UK because this means go screw. But this is like that Ich bin ein Berliner thing, where there was no one in the audience in Berlin when JFK gave that speech that thought he was saying, I am a jelly donut. Everyone watching understood that in that context, he was saying, I am a Berliner. And that obviously, if you see me do this when I say peace, I am giving the peace sign. If you ever see me do this without saying peace, then maybe I am saying go screw. The Deck of Many Things video, probably the number one negative comment I got was people saying, hey, that if you do that, if you cheat, if you deceive your players, then you're not using the real Deck of Many Things. To which my response is, there is no real Deck of Many Things. It's all pretend. D&D is make-believe. Do what you like. The entire act of role-playing is one of deception. It is all smoke and mirrors. And whatever you have to do to hook your players, do it. If your players are super interested in playing by the rules and they need that structure to believe in the secondary world, then by all means, either don't deploy the Deck of Many Things or do it by the book. There's nothing wrong with any of those. In fact, I think probably my core group of friends, the guys I play with on the weekends, the guys I grew up with and have known since I was 15, I think they would probably prefer using the Deck of Many Things as is, because we are all that kind of group where we like knowing this is really how it would go. These are the real rules. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all narrative. We are all making it up. So do what you like. Do what works for your players. I did a video about sandbox games versus games that were on rails. A lot of positive comments on that. But I want to say that I do not think that a game being on rails is the same as being railroaded. Roller coasters are on rails and people seem to enjoy those. Railroading is what the feeling that players get that their choices don't matter. I think most games are on rails in that there is a plot. The DM has a plot. I spent like an hour and a half after a recording session talking to Matt Mercer about the plot of his game moving forward in Critical Role. I know that he has an idea of who the bad guy is and what he wants and what he's going to try and do to achieve his goals, but he doesn't know exactly what the players are going to do. He doesn't want to know exactly what the players are going to do. And that's where the juice is for him and for me and for most DMs, is that kind of like, I have an idea, the rail, right? I have an idea for what the story is, but I don't even know exactly how it's going to go. But that's just a game on rails. That's just a game with a plot. That's most games. Railroaded is a negative feeling where players are like, it doesn't matter what we do. We have no choice. We just have to kind of follow along. We have to play along with the DM. We're just audience members for the DM's story. And that is something that I hate. I hate feeling that way as a DM. I hate feeling that way as a player. It's the reason we use the pejorative term railroading. But like I said, most games I think are on rails, and that's no big deal. Sandbox games, people got the impression that I think sandbox games are better than games that are on rails. rules. And I guess that's sort of true, only because if all things being equal, and they're not, but all things being equal, I think a sandbox game is better than one on rails because you can play through someone else's story in any game. You can do it in Baldur's Gate, you can do it in Skyrim, you can do it in GTA, you can do it in any adventure that you buy, you can do it in Curse of Strahd. When you play Curse of Strahd, you're not playing through your story, you're playing through someone else's story. But in a sandbox game, you have the opportunity to play through your story. You have the opportunity for the players to be self-directed, and the DM didn't know, oh, the players want to go to the Sea of Fire, or they want to go to the Tower of Necromancy. The DM had no idea what the players were going to do, and that, to me, is kind of D&D at its highest form. You can play Curse of Strahd and have a blast. There's a lot to be said. I usually run my sandbox games, have pre-written adventures in them. That's what I use to seed the sandbox. I'll have 4 or 5 adventures prepped, and I'll just put them all over the place and let the players choose which ones they want to engage with. So yeah, I do have a bias towards sandbox games, but only if you assume, which I don't, that all games have an equal amount of role-playing and have equally cool set-piece moments. All those things being equal, then yeah, a self-directed game, one where the players got to decide what their goals were, I think is better because it's something only D&D can do. But I don't want you to think that therefore you should be running a sandbox game. No. You should run whatever game you want. You should run whatever game strikes your fancy. You should run whatever game inspires you as a DM to do the work necessary to get the game ready for your players. Whatever gets you behind the DM screen is okay with me. So that covers all the videos we've done so far. I just want to reemphasize that the overwhelming majority of comments I've seen in the comments to the videos, on Twitter, on Reddit, are all super positive. I don't want you guys to think that the negative comments I'm addressing are in any way representative of the viewership as a whole. I think, generally speaking, everyone gets it, and there are a lot of people online right now running D&D because of this and the videos that Matt Mercer does, and just the work that Wizards of the Coast has done to make the game easy to play and easy to run, and that's all we want. I'm really a very selfish person. I just want to be able to play more, and that means we need more DMs. And so I do this channel in the hopes that you folks want to run more, because I think that a healthy group is one where there are several people who are willing to DM, so that when one DM gets burned out, and it happens to everybody, there's another DM that is ready to take over. And there is nothing that recharges the Dungeon Master's batteries faster. I don't know how Matt Mercer does it. That dude has been running the game for over a year, and he hardly ever gets to play. I could not do that. I would go crazy. Actually, if the camera were on me and I had my own show, and there were tens of thousands of people watching, and I had great players, yeah, I could probably do it. But the point stands, like, we need more DMs so that those of us who want to run the game get a chance to play. This is not the video that I put up on Monday. The video that I put up on Monday is going to be the one about what happens when everything goes wrong, what happened in my game when everything collapsed. I think that's going to be super interesting. That'll go up on Monday. That'll be the normal Monday video. So consider this just a kind of break in the programming. This should go up. It's Saturday night. This should go up Sunday morning. So you'll get a video Sunday morning, and then hopefully a video Monday morning, and then we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program. And someday I will be over this stupid cold and get back to doing 2 and maybe even 3 videos a week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, peace out. Or if you're in England, go screw.